I'm a big fan, and any of you that have listened to me on the radio or heard me talk at these events before know what a big fan I am of investing in companies that pay good dividends. More important than just pay a dividend, they raise that dividend on a regular basis. And I really think this is one of the places where you can have a certain amount of comfort in the stock market. Now, I'm not suggesting there is not risk involved with this. But the point I would make here, and I do throughout all these presentations, is I'm not making recommendations to anybody here. I'm making suggestions that you do your homework, you check all of this stuff out, and then you decide if it's something that's right for you. But just because I say something doesn't mean that it's right for you. Everybody in this room has a totally different tolerance for risk than the person sitting next to you, especially if it's your husband or your wife. You know what I'm talking about. Everybody in this room has a different tolerance for risk. There are people in this room that if they extend the maturity on their CDs here at the credit union from 3 months to 6 months, think they've made a tremendous leap of faith. They don't sleep for weeks. Oh my God, what did I do? If I went from 3 to 6, what am I, nuts? Oh, it's just terrible. And then there are people in the room that say, Chamberlin, the bus for Viejas leaves at 7. Let's keep it moving, okay? We want to make sure we catch that. So everybody is different, and you have to know your tolerance for risk. So I say that by preferencing some of the things that I'm going to talk about now because of dividend-paying stocks. At the beginning of this year, 2011, we actually finished the first decade of the 21st century. And it was not a great decade for investors. As a matter of fact, there was an article in USA Today in January of this year that said it was they called it the lost decade because the Standard & Poor's 500 index basically ended the 10-year period exactly where it was at the start of the period. Now, there were big peaks and valleys in there, 14,000 on the Dow, 6,000 on the Dow. We had big swings in there, but from beginning to end, the market was basically unchanged. And it just talked about how, investors are struggling, blah, blah, blah. And it was a 2-page article, and in the last paragraph of the article, they said, well, there were some sections of the market that did pretty well in that decade. And they said, especially if you were invested in what are referred to as the dividend aristocrats. Dividend aristocrats. This is a group of stocks that are part of the S&P 500 that have not only paid a dividend for at least 25 years in a row, but have also increased that dividend every year for at least 25 years in a row. That's powerful stuff. That's really powerful stuff. And what they pointed out was that group of stocks, these dividend aristocrats, and it changes small amounts every year, from the beginning of the decade to the end of the decade, that group of stocks, the dividend aristocrats, were up 104% in a decade when the overall market was unchanged. That's pretty powerful stuff, So I thought, okay, well, let's talk a little bit about that. And we talk about that 3.6% increase that people got on their Social Security payments. Let me give you a couple of examples of dividend aristocrats. And again, not recommendations, just something for you to think about. Microsoft announced in September it was raising its annual dividend by 25%, okay? Lockheed Martin raised its quarterly dividend by 33%. McDonald's raised its quarterly dividend by 15%. I believe it was for McDonald's the 49th year in a row that it had raised its dividend. So there is a great explanation of what dividends do. They raise your income by a rate obviously significantly higher than the rate of inflation. That's what you're shooting for. People ask me all the time, what is the goal? What is the objective of investing? And to me, it's a real simple thing. You invest so that your money grows at a rate faster than the rate of inflation, whether it's through income or it's through growth or a combination of the two. That's what investing is for, is to have your money grow at a rate faster than the rate of inflation. And I just mentioned 3 companies, and there are many more. I just grabbed those off my desk before I left today that have recently announced dividends increases way above the rate of inflation right now. There are 43 stocks. There are 43 stocks that make up the dividend aristocrats right now. When they change it at the beginning of the year, It'll probably stay right about the same. There may be one or two companies add it, maybe one or two delete it for various reasons on there. But that's great. What I would suggest you do is just put in your browsers, Google it or whatever you do, put in Dividend Aristocrats, and you'll find all kinds of information.